Hi everyone. We'll wait for a couple more minutes for more attendees to join and then we'll begin the session. A very warm welcome to all the attendees. My name is Rashika and I'll be the moderator during this webinar. The topic of today's webinar is Driving the Future of Insurance with AI. The presenters of today's webinar are Ramendra Shukla, co-founder and COO, exponentia.ai, Rishikesh Deshmukh, Senior Principal Consultant at exponentia.ai, and JK Wong, Partner Solution Architect in Databricks. Before we begin the session, I'd like to share a couple of instructions. All the attendees will be kept on mute during the webinar. However, we would like to keep it interactive. For this, we'll have poll questions in short intervals between the webinar, where a question will be displayed on your screen for about 30 to 40 seconds. Kindly submit your response within the stipulated time. We will also have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. You may raise your question anytime during the webinar in the chat box, and our presenters will answer them at the end. Since we all are working remotely, there can be some technical difficulties that we may face. So kindly bear with us in times of such occurrences. With this, I'd like to invite Ramendra to begin the webinar.
Thank you, Rashika. A very good afternoon to everyone, and thank you so much for joining in this particular session. The agenda for today's discussion is we will have a brief discussion on how do we see the future of insurance evolving. We'll go through a couple of thought process in terms of how companies are implementing AI into various departments and functions of insurance, and we'll go through couple of use cases as well as demos on how particular technology or particular areas of AI can be used for insurance as we move along. I have with me JK, who's a solution architect from Databricks and brings in wealth of experience around implementing AI technologies. We also have Rishikesh, who's heading pre-sales, and Ravi from his team. Before we jump into the main topic, I'll quickly take you through the organization we are representing, that is exponentia.ai. This is for the benefit of those who have joined us for the first time. So Exponentia is an AI tech organization, and we are working across different areas within data and AI ecosystem. We focus on solutions around revenue intelligence and customer intelligence. We also have a set of product portfolio, which today includes conversational AI platform, that is Engagely.ai, analytics platform, that's OneTap. We have intelligent nudges, which are both for customer as well as the teams, particularly focused on sales area, and customer intelligence platform. We are an ISO certified organization with about 200 people spread across multiple geographies, including Mumbai, Singapore, and London. We are headquartered in Mumbai and have development office in Pune as well. We work with a number of OEM partners, especially on the solutioning side, and Databricks being one of the key partners on unified data and ML platform. Apart from that, we are partners with like Microsoft, AWS, Cloudera, as well as Automation Anywhere. Sorry for that glitch. In terms of enterprises, we have been working predominantly in the BFSI segment, banking, insurance, financial services, and have also diversified into CPG, manufacturing, and healthcare. We'll be happy to take you through, any of these case studies, probably, at a more relevant time. And in case you have any questions around this, please feel free to reach out to us or put the questions in chat bot. Okay, jumping into the main topic of today, that is how are we seeing the evolving future of insurance. Um, so as you're aware, the fourth industrial revolution with the technologies proliferation which has happened, every industry is going through significant transformation, and insurance as an industry is also experiencing a transformation which is only going to accelerate as we move along. Today we are at a stage where we are looking at multiple pieces coming together. One of the critical factors is around automation driven by AI and machine learning. Then if you look at the entire business model, also the technology is today impacting how the business models will be run in insurance sector, whether it is with respect to retail business or commercial, or very very custom insurance products. The model is changing from a more reactive model to a more predictive model. And to give you an example, if you think of any kind of insurance, whether it is a car insurance, whether it is a equipment insurance, or home insurance, all of that is expected to change in future. Let's just take a simple example of how the equipments are insured today. Typically we have a model wherein we have a site visit and then claims processing which happens, and there is an elaborate process around the policy making as well. However, if you think about a future of car insurance and how the claims can be processed, it is very different. We're talking about a scenario where intelligent cars will be connected to multiple ecosystem, and even the insurance providers, and the cars will themselves be able to actually advise. Let's say if there is a breakdown, the car will be able to advise as to what is the kind of damage which may have happened, what are the photographs we need to take, how do we actually interact with the insurance provider to get the claim settled then and there, what are the repair centers we can go to wherein the processing can be faster. So we're looking at a world which is more around first is predicting what's happening, once it has happened, you're acting in real time, and then post that you are actually making sure the equipment is back to operational condition as soon as possible. And this is a phenomena which is being recognized across insurance sectors. We are seeing a lot of insurtech players coming up across products, across the entire non-life as well as life insurance sector. And in a if you look at the fundamentals of why and what is happening, we could actually bring this down to a couple of things which are happening on technology side. At the outset, there is a huge surge of how sensors are actually being used across industry to connect the devices. So we're looking at an era of connected devices wherein one is that devices are able to talk to each other. Second part is that there is an explosion of data which is happening. So the data generation is not only happening from what people are doing. Data generation is happening through the devices, what the devices are doing, how the what is the health of devices, how are the devices talking to each other and working in unison. A lot of data is being generated through that. Second phenomena around automation and AI is around the robotics part. So in robotics also we are seeing that there is the entire ecosystem being built around 3D printing, drones, around wearable devices. Now each of and even equipments on the in the healthcare sector, if you look at it, there are robots which are doing surgeries, also are being trained to do surgeries. Now all of that is also going to impact the kind of insurances which are being done, the kind of insurance which is being done for particular type of healthcare surgery, or probably for a particular type of industrial outlet. So other part which is extremely critical is around how this data ecosystem is becoming more integrated and enriched. So closer to home also we are seeing that there is a lot of data movement which is happening within public organizations, IRDA, government bodies, opening up the data sets, or moving around, creating a data ecosystem which could then talk to each other. So as a third phenomena, the data which is getting generated is getting integrated to make it more rich, more useful. And last but not the least, the entire movement around cognitive technologies in terms of machine learning, AI algorithms, the cloud technologies which are providing the scale to be able to process this entire data and make intelligence out of this data. These are four different things which are happening together, at an accelerated pace, and if you think of a scenario where this ecosystem becomes much more mature from each of these aspects, we are looking at a future which is very, very different for the industry, and especially insurance industry. From an impact on an insurance industry point of view, we are looking at one, distribution, of course, which is one of the key drivers of today policy sales and even servicing as well. Getting widely changed in terms of digital as well as automation. One of the key aspects is being able to personalize the policy, and we will see an increasing personalization of policy, not only at retail level but also at a commercial level. A lot of that happening through digital, with the use of data and AI, making certain decisions as people navigate through the policy creation process or policy purchase process. The intermediaries which we are talking about, again, the brokers, the various intermediaries which are involved in the distribution process, there is a massive change which is expected on that front as well, where proliferation of technology may actually lead to lesser, I would say, work on the data side, lesser work on the manual side, but more work on understanding the product, being able to give the right inputs to the buyers. Some of the human touch will still be there, and it's extremely important in a sector like insurance, but the kind of effort and the kind of skills which will be required will change extensively with what is happening on the digital side. Other area is underwriting and pricing. We are already in a scenario where we are seeing the pay as you go models coming along. Being able to measure what is the usage, being able to price it accordingly in different scenarios is something which is humanly not possible. It needs to be done with the use of data and AI. At the same time, competitive pressures in terms of making sure that product differentiation is in place will require extensive skills to be built in the area of AI as well as data, setting the right foundation where organizations can scale up in an environment which will be increasingly digital. On the claim side, we have already seen a lot of automation happening on claim side. However, it is further going to accelerate, and there'll be a lot of work happening on prevention side as well. And prevention is going to be an important part of insurance. There are cases where the insurance may not be possible unless you have the right kind of prevention policies in place. Now, of course, the challenges also will increase. None of these is an easy thing to do. A lot of change has to be driven, keeping in mind the kind of challenges which will come in, whether it is in terms of increased competition, in terms of customer needs, with the entire new generation coming in, the evolving customer needs need to be seen. And one of the key areas is around risk and security. Data being such an important asset for the insurance companies, there's an increasing effort which is required on cybersecurity as well as managing the risks with respect to insurance. Now, if we look at how organizations can in fact think of implementing a AI strategy around insurance, one of the ways in which it can be done is to think of this as the areas where influence is being made, and we think of a holistic framework around one, how do we drive the entire customer experiences driven by personalization at all levels. This is one area where AI will make a huge difference, and this could be one holistic framework which can be created. The other part is related to the entire business decisioning, whether that decisioning is happening internally or through the partners. How do you enable that using assisted analytics and predictive analytics? Again, that is a very big area to be thought through. The other side is looking at a process entirely. For example, if you're looking at just an underwriting process, what could be the various interventions which can be planned in the underwriting process, whether it is in terms of making the data available for decision making, or making the data assist the decision making by giving certain parameters, or third could be how to make automated decisions in certain cases. So there is a framework which can be set around process. And last but not the least is the automation part. How do you actually stitch all of that together to make sure that there is an integrated automation which is happening? We are, when we are talking to organizations, we are realizing that either there is a framework wise approach which could be entailing a process or a particular entity, or there could be a use case wise approach also which is being used today across organizations. When we look at use case, there could be particular areas, and then we are looking at what are the AI enablers, whether it is in terms of bots or speech analytics or image processing, and then we pick up individual use cases which are driving the benefits. And benefits could finally entail into either customer satisfaction, business growth, efficient operations, but individual use cases which can have an impact across a particular area is something which is again getting an adoption at this point of time. However, at the overall level, if you think about it, the framework needs to be thought through with the future in mind, that there will be a case where you will have integrated open data requiring intelligent systems to process and work across the enterprise. When we look at a framework which needs to be set, typically what we look at is that we should focus on three things. One is customer focus. How do you actually personalize, and making sure that at individual customer level the life cycle is being managed. Second is when you're thinking of processes, or even including technology to it, how do you make sure that it is agile? Because the moment this is a phenomena which is going to happen every 5-7 years. We are seeing acceleration in how technologies are being adopted. So one needs to think of how the processes can be made agile using technology. Last but not the least, is on the technology front, especially looking at unified platforms for technology which have data, AI, as well as process capabilities to be able to set the right foundation, which can then become a driver for agility as well as customer focus. um, uh, with um with this, I'll put up a poll question for you to answer, and to which will help us further understand what are the thought process right now. And so can we have the poll question, please? So we will have this poll question for about a minute. Request you to please fill it up, and I will also request Rishikesh to take it forward from here.
Hey, thanks, Ram. Thank you for this. So I think we'll just have for maybe 5 more seconds and then we'll close. Yeah, thank you everyone for your responses. So now in the first section, we have seen that why insurance is going to transform through AI. There are serious decisions to be made in terms of how we are going to approach the future insurance organization. And in the next section, what I'm going to cover are two of the pillars that Ram talked about: the business agility part as well as the customer focus part. Can we move to the next one, Ravi? And yeah, so the customer intelligence part, is mainly about how do you win the customers and keep them happy so that they don't leave you, right? And in this section, what we are going to talk about are some of the use cases and broader areas that you need to focus on and implement some of the initiatives around these use cases. So the first of the areas that you need to watch out for is to know about your customers. Ravi, can you pass on the control to me? Yeah, so you should know everything about the customer so that you are able to serve them the best way possible, right? And we know that as an organization, we have evolved over a period of time. So we have data that is residing in multiple silos in our environment. And if we want to have a holistic picture of our customers' needs and wants, then we need to take this data at one place, analyze it, have some predictive models built, and then only we'll be able to identify what are the priorities of our customers, what are the things that they like, what are those things that they don't like, so on and so forth. And ultimately you will be able to acquire more profitable customers, you will be able to service your existing customer groups, you will able to build the relationships with them and build loyalty, and then ultimately you will be able to retain them. And everybody knows that customer retention is far more beneficial because in acquisition you end up spending a lot of money, right? So this is just a highlight of how you can know about your customer. So you need to gather all the data, you need to have a capability to process this, and then ultimately derive insights on some of these areas that we are talking about. Now this we will demonstrate to you with my colleague Vishav, who is also with us on the panel. We will walk you through one of our platforms which does everything that is on this particular slide and we have talked about so far. Moving on to the next use case that I have. Ravi? Yeah. So the aspect that we talked about, that going forward the insurance business is going to be more and more about how are you able to personalize your products to your customers, right? So personalization is going to be key, and that is going to differentiate some of the successful insurance from the rest, right? So this is one of the approaches that we have followed and implemented for some of our customers, where you are able to personalize the product and recommend the best suited products to them, right? This is a three-step process, very high level, where in the first step, what you do is you identify the prospect personas and assess what are the attributes of those personas. And then in the second step, you do a mapping of these personas that you have identified in the step one, and then you score the products and their attributes that you have in your portfolio. The products for which the score comes out to be higher are the products that you can recommend to these customers, and these scores are calculated through ML and AI models, right? So the final the mapping that you see at the bottom of your screen, that is the persona product mapping. Once it is identified, you can recommend those products to them through various initiatives. It could be a marketing campaign, it could also be sort of insight embedded in your platform on a mobile application or a web application, right? So these are insights that are given to the customer so that they are sort of willing to purchase this product because it is aligning with their interest and goals, and that's how you can sort of have the cross-selling as well as upselling implemented as well, right? So this is one of the areas of hyper personalization. The second area that we want to talk about is of how you can meet the financial goals of your customers, right? And that is sort of to say that you should make the customers successful so that you are also successful, right? Can we move to the next one, right? Yeah. So success is to help the customers win, right? And this is also a hyper personalization technique that we can adopt here. So if a customer comes to your digital platform and says that, you know, I want to have a secure future of my children, so help me, do that, and then you give them a certain plan basis the information that they feed in and the objectives that they have, right? You give them a guided plan that tells them what exactly to do at a particular age, what are the products that you should buy, what is the kind of outlay that you should expect in, say, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, and how should you be preparing for that outlay, right? And in this strategy, what happens is you can subtly place some of your portfolio products, right, so that the customer also understands that these products are meant for certain purposes and they will help me achieve certain of my financial goals in this manner, right? So this is a very, very good combination of a marketing strategy as well as hand-holding customers to make them successful, right? So this is something that can go on again your some of the digital platforms, which will be the channel of preference in the near future, if not already, right? So we are seeing more and more businesses coming from digital channels, and this is one of the very, very important steps that organizations should check and take for augmenting those channels even more. Moving on, there is another piece that we want to talk about on the customer intelligence side. Ravi? Which is how you can understand which are the customers who may not renew, or who are the leads that are not going to convert in terms of purchase of your products, right? So this is a sort of area which all of us know, it's speech analytics, right? So from the conversations that your agents are having with the customers, or say a telecaller is having with a customer, if we are able to identify the insights from these conversations, we will be able to understand what is the propensity of this particular customer either to renew, or if it is a prospect, to purchase our product. And there is an elaborate roadmap and elaborate processes that we have sort of already implemented around how you can convert speech to text and then identify insights from the text, keywords from the text, so on and so forth. And this is again very, very crucial going forward, because most of the interaction again are going to happen digitally, right? So it is all the more important to have that capability of assessing, analyzing, and deriving insights from these digital conversations that we are going to have in the next decade. Moving on, as I was saying, the customer intelligence platform that we have, right? So Exponentia has developed its own customer intelligence platform. It has most of the things that we have so far talked about. It aggregates data from most of the sources where the customer data is residing in your organization. Then it transforms it, and then it presents in a manner that the important stakeholders in your organizations, like the marketing team, the strategy team, the sales team, they can take actions based on this data. So what we will do is not spend a lot of time on the slide itself, but we will go and dive deeper into the product itself, where Vishav will walk us through this platform that we have. So Vishav, if you can share your screen, please.
Sure. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Vishav. So this is the platform, the customer intelligence platform built by Exponentia. The dashboard that you see on the screen gives you a fair sense of all the key attributes around your customers. So right from how many total customers you are having, to what are the new customers in the last month, to what is the satisfaction score of these customers, and how many queries are reopened, right? That is a key metric helping you understand how our customer contact centers and those people are performing. Are they really satisfying the questions asked by our customers? Now this can be sort of in the initial look like a normal BI dashboard, but it is more than that. What you can do from here is also take some actions. So the buttons that you see below, which Vishav is highlighting, say cross-sell potential, customers at risk, renewal due, active escalations, all of these data are coming from machine learning models at the backend. And once you click this, what you will see is the granular data, the list of all those customers who are liable for cross-selling of a product, right? Once this list is populated, what a marketing person can very easily do is download this list, plug it into the CRM, And we will have APIs also to do that. Plug it into the CRM and run campaign for respective products that the customer has shown affinity in terms of cross-selling. Right? So this is a very, very important sort of step, because you are not just looking at the data, but also readily taking action based on the data. So this is about the dashboard. There are more features, but I will want to move to another section of this particular platform where you can create segments of your customers. Right? So you have lakhs of customers as a large insurance organization, and it would help you if you are able to identify which are the segments of customers or showing a certain characteristics, so on and so forth. So here what we have provided you with is a capability of creating segments from the front end itself. Many a times what happens is all these segment creation and some of these technical aspects are done by a backend team or a technical person who may not have a full idea about the business, right? And there is a significant time lost in this particular transition of giving the requirement and getting the output. So what we have done with this platform is that business users themselves are enabled to create their own rules from this platform and create the segment. So maybe Vishav, you can just create one segment quickly and show us how it can be done.
Sure.
Here you can create a rule, so something like days to renewal, and maybe you can keep, say, those customers who are due for renewal in the next 30 days. You can simply create a rule from here, and you can see what number of customers are there. 138 customers. You can readily reach out to these customers now, depending on this particular aspect. Right. So now once you have created this list, created this segment, it is stored, right? And now you can act upon this particular segment if you want to take any action. So if you can, we shall go to that particular segment and show who are these customers. Yeah. So here again you can filter out from all the segments that are available, and you can see that this particular segment is already there. We can just submit it and we will see the list. And from this list, it doesn't stop here, right? You can also have a look at these individual attributes of this customer. So if you go into this, you will have a full customer 360-degree view, right? Where you will see what is the demographic of this customer, what are the products that the person has, what are the cross-sell recommendation for this particular customer, what are the communications that we have had with this customer in the past, right? So all of these use cases can be served from this single screen. A salesperson can see what to cross-sell, where a customer contact center or a account manager or relationship manager can see what were the communications in the past, what is the sentiment score, so on and so forth. And a strategy person can also see what actions should I take for developing a new product, and so on and so forth, right? So this is in a nutshell one platform that will give you all information gathered from multiple of sources within your organization, right? So this is the segmentation and customer 360 part. This platform is also sort of enriched by the machine learning algorithms and AI techniques that we have used at the back end. So the tab that Vishav is now showing is the predictions tab. Here what you can see is two of the models that we have built here. One is the persistency model, other is the cross-sell products, right? So cross-sell we have already seen. So in persistency, what you can do is that we identify the persistency scores for each of the customers across important milestones like the 13th month, 25th month, so on and so forth, right? And wherever you see that the persistency is say below say 50, you can then go and check for those customers, also identify what are the reasons, what particular products these customers sold, so on and so forth, right? So this is a data activation platform in itself, right? Where you can just not look at the data but also drive actions and activate some of the actions from the data that you see, right? And then collaborate around that data, right? I'll stop sharing on the demo now. I hope you would have got fair sense of what this data activation platform, the customer intelligence platform that we have is, and let us know in the Q&A session if there are any questions on this one. Yeah, great.
Yeah,
thanks a lot, Vishal.
sure, welcome.
So now in the next section, the thing that we are going to cover, this was the first pillar, if you remember, of the future capabilities that you need to build, right? The first section was about customer intelligence and customer hyper-personalization. The second section that we have is about business agility, right? So all of these initiatives that we are taking are going to bear fruit only if we have the effectiveness as well as speed to convert some of these initiatives into business, right? So business agility is sort of as good as sales agility, right? And how do we define sales agility? Is effectiveness into speed. So your teams should be effective as well as they should be fast, right? So there are 4 elements that we talk about in this sales agility piece. First of it is personalization, again for your sales personnel. Then predictive intelligence to drive these decisions. Then the process intelligence part, again for the decision making, and the automation of the overall processes for efficiency, right? And we will have again use cases around these in the next few slides. Yeah. So how do you do personalization for your sales team? Because most of the time sales team are on the ground, they are sort of day in day out focusing on their tasks. They don't have time to analyze things that have happened, find out trends, and then work out their strategies. So as an organization, what we should do is support them with insights, right? So we should give them personalized recommendation on what to do today, what are the follow-ups that they need to do, what are the customers they need to reach out, so on and so forth. The second thing that we need to do is the next. Yeah. The second thing is about tracking the progress, right? So if we are able to track the progress, we will be better off in terms of where we want to reach as well, right? So that is the second piece, and all of this can be done with AI techniques. Next one. Third is about the productivity. As I said, productivity is going to be critical because we are talking about agility, which is the product of the effectiveness as well as speed. So if we are not sort of following the pace of the change in the business, then we are going to lag behind. So productivity is going to be critical, and this can be improved with some of the enablement techniques that can be enabled through ML. Next one. Yeah. And then of course is the enablement. With the rapid changes in the product and services that are offered by organizations, sales team and other teams will have a constant need of enabling themselves, and this can be done through the enablement that is provided from the platforms, like say the learning modules, like the product catalogs, and so on and so forth. So whenever they are reaching out to the customer, they should be knowing fully well what are the features of this product, right? And then only they will be able to convince the customers they are talking to, right? So this is an enablement need that is always there and can be identified as well as catered to by the ML algorithms and techniques. The second piece of this part is enabling the sales team leaders, right? Because they are the ones who are driving the overall sales organization. And in this, again, we have multiple interventions. So one of them is identifying real-time pipeline intelligence, right? Most of the time, sales people might be saying that, these are the sort of leads that will convert. But then if we look at the trend and the data, there could be a good chance that some of them might be dead leads, right? And focusing on them is actually an opportunity cost because we are losing out on the other leads which may be having higher propensity of conversion. Second is conversational intelligence, where we have talked earlier also, where you can do speech analytics and identify what is the propensity of a particular lead to convert, right? So such insights can be driven from conversational intelligence. You can have chatbots, you can have analytics models that will give you a insight from these conversations that the customers are having with our stakeholders. Third is about the forecasting revenue, right? So the leaders should know what kind of forecast that we have for the business in the coming days. Now this has been a traditionally sort of popular use case, but it is also a challenging use case because granular level forecasts are not accurate, and for that you need sophisticated techniques deployed to identify what is the product level pin code level forecast that we have for say next 45 days, right? And then the fourth one is about the intelligent nudges. So this is a sort of enablement that we have to do, and this is a platform that we have developed through which you can reach out to your sales leaders and sales team members to enable them with all the techniques, all the insights that we have talked about so far, right? So we will talk about intelligent nudges in the coming slide as well, right? So this is one example of how you identify dead leads through speech analytics, right? The approach is the same as we have already seen for conversion improvement as well as identification of all those leads who have a higher propensity of conversion. right? So here again, you can identify from the conversations that the customers are having with our sales team, what are the leads which could turn out to be dead leads and hence should not be pursued, because we have seen that about it takes about 22 days to identify a dead lead, and just imagine the effort that goes into these 22 days by our sales team. So if we can save them, productivity will improve and we will see a higher conversion rate. So the next one that we have is a nudges platform, right? And I'm explaining it with an example. Say you want to identify what are the anomalies at a agent, product, or a project level, right? So in this, what happens is, say you have thousands of sales agents and you have so many products in your portfolio. Now to identify which combination of agent and product is showing an anomaly is best left to the machines to identify, because if you are trying to sort of do it manually, it will take a lot of time and you cannot do it repeatedly, right? So there are techniques to identify based on the lead information, product information, sales patterns and trends, right? Also we can have some of the benchmarks and forecast put into the system to identify what is showing the anomaly. And not just identification but also communication of this information within time to such stakeholders who can take now action is also very critical. And hence this nudges platform is something that we have built that helps you not just identify some of these anomalies and other insights, but also communicate to them, to the relevant stakeholders well within time, right? So these are some of the use cases that I had on the business agility side, right? So we have seen two parts: one, the customer intelligence, and the second, the business agility. In the coming section, what we are going to see is the third piece, which is, if you want to do this, you should build a robust foundation of technological products as well as platforms that will help you implement all these use cases, and that part will be taken up by JK. But before we move there, here is a quick poll question. Please help us understand your thoughts around this question, and then we will move to the next one.
Thanks a lot, Ishikesh. So let's wait for another 10 seconds and we can close this post. All right. So as everybody is answering the quick poll, so just a quick introduction. My name is JK. So I'm from Databricks. I'm one of the partner solution architect that's covering the technical aspect of Databricks. And following on, we'll basically discuss a bit about the technology part, which is what Ram has mentioned earlier on the third pillar that enables an insurance company to actually be running all this machine learning and AI. Right. So to let everybody understand the technology piece, right? First, let's take a look at what currently existing architectures people are facing, what the challenge they are facing, and you can quickly take a look and understand how complex it gets. So this is one of the current architectures that probably you see a lot in a lot of customers, right? So in fact, I challenge you guys to even ask yourself, are you in your organization having such similar architecture, right? So a lot of times we see customers having a particular architecture that orientates around data warehousing to serve their BI needs, and then in terms of running ETL transformation, they probably kind of use other tools to do that. Or in fact, a lot of times we are seeing customers using data lakes, right, to actually run their ETL jobs and address kind of structured and unstructured and semi-structured data. And then following that, a lot of organizations, as their use cases grow, you do see that they actually are starting to look at streaming data, right? So of course they will use their data engineer, their data lakes to actually address that. And then finally a machine learning use case, right? So a lot of times customers actually have all these different architectures inside, right? To help them drive, the earlier what Hishikesh and Ram has mentioned, all the AIs that power insurance customer, right? And on top of that, not just architecture, complexity in terms of managing a lot of software, right? For example, just a quick glance in this particular slide, you probably see some familiar tools that probably you in your organization, in fact, is using, right? And of course, you also will understand that, in fact, some of these tools are used by different personas like data engineers, data analysts, and data scientists. So what is the challenge here? The challenge is whatever Ram has and Hishikesh has mentioned to create those kind of AI use cases, right? The whole end-to-end process requires not just one of your team inside your organization to actually build up these use cases. In fact, from data engineers, they need to start cleaning up the data, bringing all the data sources, to the data scientists who starts to build the machine learning models, and then your business analyst or data analyst trying to analyze your data. And with all the coordination, another layer of complexity comes at managing all these different software tools that you have in your organization. So from kind of Hadoop, then to your data warehouses like Teradata, and then to a machine learning kind of software, right? Like SAS, like Jupyter Notebooks, and then to kind of finally integrate everything together. That is the third layer of complexity that will come, because it is not so straightforward, it is not so simple, and you need someone who knows everything, right? And that is a challenge to even find in the real world, right? And this is the kind of challenge that when a typical organization tries to implement kind of like insurance use cases, insurance machine learning for their customers. This is the kind of things that a lot in terms of technology are actually encountered, which is under the hood, that adds to the complexity and the time to actually implement all these different use cases. So here with Databricks, we try to kind of use our Lakehouse platform to provide kind of, in terms of the technology perspective, a useful, a simple, and an open kind of platform, right? And of course, with what the exponential team are doing with their kind of interface, with kind of their knowledge in insurance on how to actually build up this AI model, right now, together, it's much more faster to do an implementation for a customer. Traditionally, it may take about 1 year just to implement a machine learning model. But right now, with technology and expertise, you get very accelerated kind of implementation, because all these things are ready for you, right? You just need to contact us and kind of do a review, and you can simply start using and implementing all these things, right? And of course, why the technology itself is important, there is a few things, right? Of course, the first thing is we are trying to make everything simple. The user interface is simple, but additionally, we are trying to make usage of all the different use cases in the platform simple, right? So Databricks is basically a data and AI company, and our main gist of this is that we are basically the co-founders of Spark, right? So our co-founders of the company are those people who actually created the Apache Spark technology, right? And in fact, we are still actively participating in the open source community. And of course, in Databricks, we provide an optimized version of this Apache Spark for you to actually quickly process your data, right? And of course, what is most important is that with all this technology, and including some of our popular open source tools like Delta Lake and MLflow, customers right now, when using this platform of the Databricks Lakehouse, you can actually run data engineering workload on it. So basically doing your ETL, your cleansing, your data governance, and then your BI and SQL analytics, which means very close to kind of a reporting chart, which can be also done inside Databricks. And of course, as you can see, when I earlier mentioned, there are in the insurance organizations or insurance companies, real-time data, right? Social media data, and or in fact, real-time entering of your customers' information, customer 360 degrees data. All these can be changed to real-time, and you need a platform to actually support it so that you can drive what Hishikesh earlier mentioned, those kind of dashboards that you see, right? And of course, finally, without saying AI, right? Machine learning. So how do you manage this model, right? What you have seen earlier is the final result of these machine learning models, but you need the technology at the back to actually power all these things up. right? And of course, in addition to that, multi-cloud is also another important thing where you want to make sure that your data sometimes may not be just sitting in one cloud. In fact, you may be sitting in multiple clouds. And in Databricks, what we are doing is not just letting you to sit in one cloud. In fact, we are trying to consolidate all this data. You can be sitting in AWS, Google, Microsoft. We can actually combine everything together for you, right? Without you literally shifting those data out of those clouds. So that is one of the how the technology actually can help to improve the entire use case. And of course, when we talk about the technology, it is not just about how it can do and what use case, right? We must make sure it also address kind of the entire end-to-end life cycle of development, right? Although you may have dashboard, like what Hishikesh just mentioned, you can have the exponential dashboard to build all the relative information that's useful to you. But in the end, your team may also need to do something with the data. And that's why the Databricks kind of platform allows you to do all these build, test, and deploy or offer these different queries, be it for data engineers, your data scientists, and even sometimes your business analysts, right? And that is very important. So with the dashboard, with the kind of the Lakehouse architecture, what it really does in the technology front is to help you to connect with all these different data that your organization have, specifically on the insurance sides of the house, right? Be it sales and policies, and sometimes understanding the weather could actually help you to kind of build out in country, in region policy making decisions, and how you may charge it, and how frequent people get sick due to the weather. All these things can actually be run to create kind of an interesting machine learning model that brings the company above other kind of their competitors that is not using an AI. And of course, the value of the technology is important, but generally we want to make sure that whatever there is in the technology drives the business value. And what Hishikesh and Ram has mentioned above is those business value that is important to an organization like you guys who wants to grow their insurance business, and it can have a great vast of use cases, from the actual end-to-end customer to the back end of your inventory to the back end of your sales. All these things can actually be done so that in the end, those business value like real-time decision making, telemetric kind of data, and real-time dashboard, all these things can make your organization, when they start making big decisions, right, are becoming data-driven, something to back you up on, right, when you make those decisions, and kind of let everybody knows that your decisions are not pulling a number out of the sky, but actual physical data that actually are in your organization and making your decision more sense, right, when you actually implement it. And of course, in Databricks, we does a lot of use cases. We have actually already customers that is using Databricks to run insurance use cases, to run machine learning models. But right now, to even help you to fast start this particular use case, particular implementation of AI and models, and even make your data more data-driven, Exponential has created all these good and wonderful and powerful dashboards, right, that actually can be run on top of Databricks as a technology to quickly bring you guys up to the level of using AI and using your data to actually make decisions, right? So with that, that is a very quick introduction of the technology. Next, we'll probably have a quick poll to let you guys, maybe you can let us understand how your organizations are dealing with some of your AI, right? So yeah, so here's a quick poll. And next, of course, we'll hand the next sections to Hishikesh, and probably you can carry on with the next part of the topic.
Thank you, JK.
Sure, JK.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ravi. So, Ravi, over to you for the demo of the fraud detection use case in insurance claims. Okay, after this poll question.
Sure. Sure.
So yeah, I think 5 more seconds for the question. Yeah, over to you, Ravi.
Yeah. So hello everyone. As we all know, insurance fraud is a huge problem in the industry. $1 of fraud costs companies 3 times in chargeback, replacement, and other operational costs. And fraud may be committed at different points in transaction by applicants, policyholders, third-party claimants, or professionals who provide services to claimants. And we can say that some lines of insurance are more vulnerable to fraud than the others. Healthcare and auto insurance are generally considered to be the sectors most affected. Here in this use case, we are going to consider fraud in auto insurance sector. So let me jump directly to our database environment and quickly take you through the use case and the problem statement and objective. So the objective was to create a predictive model to predict whether the insurance claim is fraudulent or not fraudulent. And the technical approach to it was the Databricks as a single platform to pull the various sources of data from API endpoints. As JK mentioned, we need to integrate different data points from different systems into one aggregated system so that we can build the analytical models. And the ML approach, we will go through the ML approach in our demo of our Databricks. So before we go to the Databricks, our results, let me just walk you through the Databricks environment. So this is what you can see is the workspace. So here we write the code in different languages. So one of the advantage of Databricks is like we can write in different languages like R, SQL, Python, and so on. And then again, we can see that we can also visualize and have an interactive notebook in the same notebook. We can have our visualizations done, and which can be further taken into a dashboard. So we can say that Databricks is a one-to-one platform for coding to visualization. The next part I also wanted to highlight is the data part. So just a minute, hold a minute with me. Here we can see that we can upload data as a file. We can connect through S3 system, Amazon S3 system. We can have a DBFS system, is something like SDFS system in Databricks. And then again, we have other data sources. We can connect to Amazon Redshift. We can connect to Kinesis, Cassandra, Snowflake, and so on. We can have partner integration and through APIs and connect to different data sources. So this is the utility which I wanted to highlight before I move on to the case. So Databricks is a unified platform where you can just have the data ingested from different sources and then again move and model the analytical algorithms and then move ahead to a dashboard where you can generate the insights. So our data set, so we had a claim data set of incidents around auto accidental cases of 3 months in US region, and data from different systems was integrated and around 35 independent variables were taken into consideration. Let's see the data points and the raw data. So we can see we have policy level attributes, we have insurer attribute, insurer demographics like insurer education level, occupation, hobbies, relationships. Then we have incident level attributes like how was the incident happened, how was the collision type, the incident severity, and so on. And then again we have vehicle information and what was the damage in the vehicle and weaknesses and the police report if it was done, and then again the claim for it for the particular incident. So and the auto model and all. So my point of view of showing these data variables is like you should know that which variables we would be requiring to begin with the fraud detection use case. Then again, what we did is we did a simple exploratory data analysis and counted the number of fraudulent incidences against the total number of incidents. We found that around 25% of the incidents are fraud incidents, and that can be taken as a corollary towards the real-time examples too, where companies might face similar losses due to fraud cases. And then we also did EDA with geographically. We looked across which regions were the which regions had more claims of fraud claims, and then we found that eastern region of the US had the more fraud claims. We also looked across the insured education level per fraud claims, but we couldn't find any significant differences in the by education level. So once the EDA was done, we moved to create a transport data set by dropping a few variables which were not significant. We converted categorical variables into numerical variables, and then again we also vector assembled all the features into one single vector column. As you can see here, all the features are aggregated in one single vector column so that it can be used for the modeling purpose. Then we moved ahead with the modeling step. In the modeling step, this was a clear binary classification problem where the ML model needs to predict whether the incident is fraud or not a fraud. We chose tree-based, decision tree-based model and coded it in Scala. And this was our initial model, the first model which we built. So, and when we calculated the error using the binary classification evaluator, we found the accuracy around 74% of accuracy in the model. So let's first look at the best tree model on the dashboard and try to understand it, how we can interpret the tree structure. So decision tree is a tree-like structure in which internal nodes. So these are the internal nodes which represent test on attributes. Each branch represents the outcome of the test, and each leaf, these are called the leaves. So these leaves represent the labels. So the labels are whether the claim was fraud or not fraud. So finally, we have to arrive at the leaf nodes, and that is our decision whether it is 0 or 1 decision points. And then again, after having the tree and the best tree model at accuracy of 74%, we wanted to improve our model. So we use cross validator and grid search, and grid search with 5 fold cross validation. We found that our accuracy increased from 74% to 84%. And after getting the accuracy of 84%, we thought that we will dive into which are the variables which impact the model significantly. So we found two variables, insured occupation and collision type, as the variables which highly impact the model dependent variable. So we see that 12% of the people who are fraud are craft repair and craftsmen basically, and the private house service people, and handlers and cleaners. So this is an insight which we can assume that people with this occupation profile are more prone to make frauds. And then we also looked at all the collision types. So most of the collision type was the side collision type. So these are the insights, primary insight which we could derive from our analysis. And but what we have done here is analysis is a brief use case of to establish our capabilities to tackle real life insurance frauds. Once this is done with more data and more complexities, the model can be improved into a real-time insurance fraud check algorithm. Further, we would be happy to discuss this in this case in our next interactions, if you wish. And so we happily want to request you to come up with the challenges which you are facing around your business problems and help us know how we can help you into the AI, through AI solution, and create something doable and actionable solutions around it. So that's all we have as far as our presentation is concerned. Now we open the forum for your queries and doubts. Over to Rashika.
Thank you, Ravi. The floor is now open for Q&A session. So we have few questions from the attendees. So the first one is, how far exponentia can support preemptive decision making?
Sure. Yeah, I can take that, and Ram, please feel free to come in. So I think this question can be answered by the use case that Ravi demonstrated. So preemptive decision making is the area that we are targeting, right? Our customer intelligence as well as sales intelligence, and some of the bespoke use cases around this fraud analytics, right? Underwriting, so on and so forth. So machine learning models are geared towards preemptive decision making, and I think there should not be any challenges, as far as capability of exponential AI is concerned from that angle. I hope that answers the question. If there are any specific use cases, I think feel free to reach out to us. We can give you a sort of walkthrough of the approach for that particular use case, and if there is any available demo, we can also organize that for you. Any other question, Rashmi?
Yes, so we have one more question. Do you also have fraud use cases for life insurance?
Sure. So we are working with life insurance organizations in India, leading organizations at that. And fraud use case is something that we are not deployed yet, but we do have sort of demonstration on life insurance as well for the fraud use case. So if you're interested, we can sort of get in touch, and we can demo you that use case as well.
There is one more question. So have you worked for any insurance organization for collection or renewal forecasting?
Okay, sure. Yeah, that is again is a yes. As I said, we are working with leading organizations in insurance in India as well as overseas, and this is one of the use cases that we see at most places: collection or persistency, right? Forecasting, and that was also sort of the demo that we had, the customer intelligence platform. There we have a model already built to predict the persistency at a customer level. Right, so if you just aggregate that, it becomes your collection forecasting models for the premium that you are going to collect.
I think we have one more question. Can you explain more about the intelligent nudges part that you referred to?
Sure. So intelligent nudges is one of the accelerators that we have developed, and this particular offering is developed because we see that there are more and more use cases and needs sort of exhibited and required by some of our customers, especially for their employees who are in the sales team, right, who are constantly interacting with the customers. They need timely reminders, timely insights on some of their performance, some of the things that they can improve upon, so on and so forth, right? So this is actually a platform that is geared towards making people who are at the sort of forefront to take timely actions and data driven actions, right? So this is the overall platform that is sort of having a ML at the back end, and then it has API integrations with mobile applications, web applications that you may have in your organization, something like a CRM or a sales mobile application. And then on those applications, it can trigger those notifications so that those stakeholders are alerted in time, and they can take subsequent action, right? So if required, again, this is a platform, so we can demo the platform to you. If you have a particular use case around this, we can also bake in that use case and demonstrate that.
So we do not have any more questions. So we'll be closing the discussion here. But you can reach out to us anytime through our website, LinkedIn page, or email us at engage@exponentia.ai. Thank you all for joining us. Have a good day.